This is Gary Atensi with CNTV, and today we're in Denver, Colorado. I am here at Zim Consulting. Since 2006, they have been building better nonprofits for a better world. I'm joined with Marty Zimmerman, who is the president, co-founder. Thanks so much for joining us here today. Let's start off a little bit about yourself. You really bring 20 plus years of experience. In your case, award-winning experience. Basically, you have educated with a master's in social work as well as nonprofit management. Share with me a little bit how this got started for you.
So the original origin of Zim Consulting started with a unique kind of finding. I was working as a fundraiser. I was running a multi-million-dollar annual fundraising campaign, and I was in an office of a person I was meeting with to solicit for money. And when they took a break, they had to take a phone call. I looked around at their bookcase, and they had 8 plans that were on a shelf that had dust on them. And so I said, what's going on? And so when I looked at the plans, I pulled them out, and they were beautiful. They had great designs on them. They were telling how to raise money. They were talking about strategic planning. And so I said, what's with the dust? What's going on? And ultimately, what he said is, these are great, but we can't use them. They're not implementable. They don't have budgets. They don't talk about staff. They don't talk about things that are rooted in reality. And so the people who put them together just sort of wandered off into the sunset after creating these plans. And that was the idea for Zim of what if I were to create plans, but also serve as a high-level contractor to implement plans, help nonprofits, help raise money, and then we'd be able to be successful. So that was the impetus of the business in 2006. I hit a nerve. Within 6 months, I had more business than I could handle, and I really needed some help. So I was able to negotiate, convince, coerce. I don't know what the right word is, but ultimately I was able to get my wife to leave from, she was the director of advancement at another nonprofit, to come join Zim. Part of the negotiation, she became CEO. She owns 51% of the organization, woman-owned. But she and I started working together from then on.
That is an amazing story, and I think you're right on all those words when it comes to a partner like that to get them on board. Quite honestly, we're looking at 10 million nonprofits worldwide, 25,000 in the state of Colorado. Why is it important for these nonprofits, more so today, that they survive so that they are here tomorrow to support our communities?
So nonprofits are the front line. They are the ones who are helping us so that we can live our lives and be able to have the things that are important. If we ever fail or fall in our lives or come upon hard times, nonprofits help us get training for jobs. They're the ones who provide the food banks. They're the ones who provide shelter, clothing, education. They support the environment and protect the environment. They help animals. They help give us culture and arts. They cover all different aspects that create meaning and opportunity in our life so that we have a safety net and support. And it doesn't have to come from the government. These nonprofits fill that gap, and then they can customize it so that if your area is arts education or music education, or if the thing that you're most passionate about is, I want to be able to volunteer to clean up a trail so that Colorado is beautiful, there are the groups there that can help them. But they need help so that they can be successful getting financial resources so that they're going to be able to continue to fulfill that mission, which is so important to making our lives better.
And obviously the help is what you provide. You are a full-service consulting firm, but like you said, basically your emphasis is in the implementation. Why does that continue to be the cornerstone of really what keeps you busy and in demand?
So I detest, for lack of another term, I detest the notion of creating something and just letting it wither away. And so the idea behind the implementation, it started out that the implementation is we really focused on direct fundraising. And that's where most of the services were. And then over time, we started using the skills of our CEO, of Shira. Her skill was she's a phenomenal writer in addition to being a great manager. And her first grant that she had ever applied for was a $1 million request to help resettle immigrants in the U.S. who were coming from the former Soviet Union. And not only did she get it funded, but she was able to help implement it. And she created the format and the structure that has now led to grant writing, and as the implementation arm, that is the biggest part of our business. It's 80% of our business now is grant research and grant writing. And this year, 2020, we will apply for 900 grants for different organizations, and we're on pace to bring in over $20 million for the organizations we work with.
I mean, you're full service. We're talking about 34 different service areas. That's quite a few. Let's start at the top. The umbrella, if you will, over all of it, the lifeblood of any nonprofit, and that is funding. Tell me what you bring to the table when it comes to funding. Is this something that is really job number one for you when you take a look at an organization?
Yeah, so what we mean is we really have two parts of our business. The first part is the grants, because that is so significant. The second part is what we call strategy. And within strategy, that's where all the other services come, because I look at you and you are an individual. Your needs are different than everybody else. So when I look at an organization, each organization has unique needs. So no one fits in a box. Nobody should be judged for what I think from a different organization will work for them. So we have to be creative and we have to customize our approach. So it's everything from figuring out why they need money and creating plans that can be implemented to on occasion, we'll do special projects where we'll do feasibility studies, we'll do campaigns, we will help them do endowments, or at one point, I actually became a paid lobbyist on behalf of an organization to help change the law for the state of Colorado to advocate for this disabilities group. It is what is needed for the organization at the time so that they'll be able to move forward and be successful.
Very customized approach. I would imagine today donors are very well aware or want to be aware of where their money's going. How important is it for the organization to be effectively communicating to those donors and letting them know that they're getting the best bang for their buck?
So transparency, especially now, is everything. If you think of it, so there's so much competition. What sets the organizations apart from other ones, the ones that are successful? The ones that can say, hey, we know how much we're spending on our services. We know how many people we're impacting. Evaluation is huge. Collaboration with other organizations is huge. That is what brings in the funding, and that is what individual donors or companies want to see, that their money is having an impact, and that impact can be measured. And that's really what we're trying to help them do. And so when it comes to evaluation services, we bring in other experts or we help support them so that they're able to then be able to receive more funding. The clearer you are on what your impact is, the more funding we can get for you.
We're talking about multiple strategies that are probably going on at one time because you're working with individual donors, funding campaigns, sponsors that are corporate sponsors, as well as planned giving. I mean, these are all individual targets that basically need to be spoke to, I imagine, in a verbiage they can understand.
So the thing that really sets us apart is that we partner with the organizations that we work with really closely. We're part of their team. We are there. So our grant writers, for example, they often show up at staff meetings so that they can be there and hear what's going on. When it comes to some of these other fundraising campaigns, we start with what are their connections to the people that they know so that we can say, how do you work with the people who already love you so they'll love you more? Or how do you leverage that in a positive way? We don't believe in arm twisting. We don't believe anything should be denigrating. It should all be one person talking to another to help a whole bunch of other people and make a difference in this world. And that impact is really what we try to drive. So the case statements that we talk about, what is the case for why people should give? Well, in order to figure that out, why do we need money? And what do we need that money for? And why are you unique? And so if we can put that together and communicate that, then we can be transparent and then we can handle all these different approaches and be strategic about it.
Interesting. I mean, obviously no one plans to fail, but people fail to plan. And like you said, how important is an updated development plan and not something sitting, like you say, gaining dust?
So I don't know who ever predicted COVID coming or anything like that. What I can say is it pretty much took many plans completely off the shelf and threw them out. And organizations who have made strategic plans that we've worked with that were planning on implementing something in year 3 of putting their programs online suddenly had to do it in year one. And so creating some plan that's livable and that's flexible and has accountability and that we have clear benchmarks of what we're trying to accomplish, but has the ability to bring in and change with the times, that is where most of our focus is now, because that flexibility and fluidity is really key.
So you really find these organizations all start with a plan, but as far as keeping it updated, monitoring that plan, setting benchmarks, setting goal dates that are realistic, this is really where you come in, making sure that it's kind of a living document, if you will, that does change with the times.
That is absolutely correct. And keeping things updated and keeping them correct and keeping them right, what is right in one week is different the next week sometimes. But what we have found is that when a whole bunch of people were receiving, a whole bunch of organizations were receiving the payroll protection program, the PPP loans, so suddenly some of them had cash, but they were afraid to spend it, or some of them, it affected how they're going to do fundraising. Do you have to declare to your donors that you received a PPP loan, but you needed it because you weren't sure what was going to happen and you need to keep your donors, you need to keep your operations going? And so we have been working with these organizations to adjust them and keep these living plans. And same with grants. Many of the grant funding before was towards a specific program, and we were helping our clients learn about grant funding that works for COVID relief or for current ones, to go back to funders and say, can we change it from a program to general operations so we can stay open? During April, we were submitting over 60 grants a week for our current clients to be able to help them sustain their programming and sustain their operations as they were moving forward.
That is amazing. I mean, obviously, a vital area is that of grants. Obviously, the reason you brought on your partner, I mean, basically someone who's an accomplished grant writer, understands what it's like to manage 32 organizations, bring in a substantial amount of grant funding. Do you find a lot of the companies out there miss out a lot of times on grants because of the fact that it's kind of an overwhelming area to navigate?
Yeah, so it is absolutely. What happens is most of the people, if they don't have people who are helping them, most organizations are going to start Google. And they're going to go through and they're going to come up with a bunch of them. But they don't really have the time to spend going through saying, what's going to fit? And they don't know who the right program officer is. They don't know if there's a connection between their organization, who's on the board and who's on the staff. And they're not sure of how much they've given to other similar types of organizations to them. So we take all the research and we put it all together in one place and say, these are the ones that you need to cultivate a relationship before you even apply. And by cultivating a relationship, it's who knows whom. You have a much better chance of getting funding if you talk to someone ahead of time before you actually spend the time writing. But most organizations, that especially newer ones, don't understand this, or they don't want to take the time to do that. So they do it in a piecemeal approach. And ultimately, with no one owning it, it's much harder to get more funding.
Not very effective to put the cart before the horse when it comes to relationships, and you're dealing with actual people who are making those decisions. Writing grants, reviewing the grants. It seems there's much research just in the grant part of it to make sure that it is a good fit and is effective for each organization.
So research is massive for us. When we come across an organization, on average, we're finding anywhere from 40 to 70 new funding opportunities for them in the grant research that we're doing that they didn't know about. And we include the organizations in our research of the ones that they have received funding for, even if their priorities have changed, because we still have relationships. So our grant research process is unique, though, not only in the type of information and the volume of what we put in, but we actually break it down into manageable chunks. And we prioritize which are the ones that are the slam dunks. These are the foundations we really need to call in order, and this is why. Here's what the program angle is. Here's what we're asking for. And then we get the feedback before we even sign on to write grants for them.
Very comprehensive. Complex, a lot of research, like you're saying. I mean, as companies out there try to improve their structures within, improve their systems, do you feel as a consultant you can come in and provide a perspective that they probably could never see within their own four walls?
I don't like to think that I know everything, and I learn a tremendous amount from every organization that I work with. Hopefully, I learn as much from them as they learn from me. But what I can bring to these organizations is an understanding of here are opportunities that you may not have considered, that you may have thought of, but they actually work well for this, and you may have put it off to the side. Another option that we come in is we sometimes come up with very creative ideas, or what are alternative funding sources? So we don't have to go back to the same donors. What are some sustainable giving opportunities? And then what do we have to do to actually turn that into a reality, as opposed to, oh yeah, we should just open up a store. Well, that doesn't necessarily fit in reality. But what are their strengths and what is unique about the organization that will fit for them? So I do believe that they get a huge value add by working with us in terms of knowledge and opportunities. And we have this notion that once a client, always a client. So we have organizations that worked with us 5 years ago, 6 years ago. It may not be the right time, but they come back because they have questions, and we're always happy to help. We believe in building other people's businesses and making sure that everyone can be successful.
That is interesting. I mean, not only is it important for you to help them with the success today, but sustaining that success, seeing the success of the future, that of succession planning, leadership change. Is that something you can help them navigate as well?
About 5 years ago, 5 to 10 years ago, there was a huge boom. The nonprofit sector was completely turning over. There were many, many CEOs and executive directors who were retiring. They were baby boomers, and they wanted to spend more time with their families. Now, there's still a number of baby boomers who are working in the nonprofit sector, but creating succession plans, or how do we transition, is really important. As the biggest, I'd say the most difficult area is when it comes to fundraising, because the average tenure of somebody who is a fundraising development type person in a nonprofit is about 15 months. And so organizations constantly are churning through fundraising professionals, especially the lead fundraiser, the chief development officer. And so creating plans and structures so that if one person leaves, the organization isn't set back another year and a half until you have someone. That's something that we help structure within organizations to make sure they can succeed.
Your organization began really with yourself. Quickly, it was a co-founding situation that began with just the two of you. You had quite a bit of years of experience between the two of you. You now have a staff of over easily a dozen individuals who are definitely trained. They have close to probably 100 years of combined experience when it comes to, nonprofits. Is the common thread between all of them really a passion for helping community and a passion for helping these nonprofits?
So we currently have 19 employees and 5 contractors. We have grown substantially since COVID started. Actually, we have been employing people since then to be able to meet the demand for grants during this time, which we feel great about. The people who we hire are passionate about different aspects of making this world a better place. So some of them, we have ones who absolutely love dogs and love animals. We have ones who are very politically active and on both sides of the aisle. We have people who are very passionate about helping people and making this world better. And the passion is something that everybody has. I don't know the combined years of experience. I'm not sure I want to count that high. But ultimately, the commonality is that the people who work with us are able to live their passion, and they're able to see the impact of the work that they're doing. So it's meaningful, fulfilling, and it reaches them in their hearts. And at the same time, they're learning, because there are different kinds of organizations we never heard of. And they learn not only about the areas they're passionate about, but they come to learn about new areas and new ways of connecting with the community.
Well, I did count the years of experience on your combined sheet there, and you probably don't even have all the people in your staff on your site. You see you're constantly growing. For you, you've worked as a CFO before. You obviously have a great grasp of numbers. You understand what it takes to make a nonprofit succeed. But at the end of the day, for you, is this about people? Is this about relationships with those people? And does it continue to be rewarding for you?
So the way I measure the impact of Zim How many clients have we worked with? So we've worked with 312 unique nonprofits, 268 of them located in Colorado. That's tremendous. Take beyond that. Those 312 organizations have had operations or worked in all 50 states and in over 121 countries around the world. If I take the number of people each of those nonprofits served at the time that we work with them, and I add that up, we have impacted the lives of more than 5.7 million people. And that's in 14 years. And our goal is just to keep growing that number and impact more lives in a positive way.
So it's actually about a number. 5.7 million is amazing. Yet at the same time, it's about those people that are being affected. Viewers, let's take a look at the bottom of the screen right there. What you're going to see is their website. On the website, you can learn more about this organization that began back in 2006. Basically, just a couple folks who realized that there's an abundance of nonprofits, but they soon realized that they needed some help navigating, starting out with a plan and making sure that it wasn't a dusted plan, but actually an implemented plan that changed according to the environment around them. You can also take a look at the website and see some of the projects they've done, many clients that they've helped. You can sign up for a newsletter there as well. Really, they're bringing experience, flexibility, and yet at the same time, they partner with you. So basically, when you win, they win. This is an organization that began in 2006. That is Zim Consulting. Wherever your nonprofit is going, we'll help you get there. This is Gary Atencia with CNTV. And if you don't know, now you know.